you have to imagine the green-white aggro deck is pretty happy about.
Yeah, I mean, this really it doesn't really matter what Jessup's draw is. It matters if Boswell's able to curve.
Yeah.
If Boswell can get that 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, it's going to be really hard for Jessup to win. So far, turn 1 Scryland, Jessup's got to be breathing a sigh of relief. If he has a Thought Seize as well, things are looking really good.
To take the 2-drop, assuming there's only one. Yeah, he's got to be pretty happy about that. Just to swap and pass the turn back, though. Boswell going to take a draw here. He does have an Experiment 1, also a Soldier of the Pantheon. There's a Manic Influence, so he can play 2 creatures right away.
So he could play 2 creatures. He also has a Voice. So he has a really good start here, despite going turn 1 Scryland. Because again, it's all about getting a lot of creatures into play really early.
Yep.
Because Jessup can't play multiple removal spells really in the turns 1 through 3. So trying to get that damage in, trying to press your advantage. That's all Boswell can hope for. Turn 2 Packrat's not going to be nearly as impressive against this type of draw from Boswell. Jessup might just try to pull the trigger on a removal spell here, but it looks like he's going to pass.
Yeah, looks like he's leaving up a removal spell at this point. Again, Boswell doesn't have, main deck odds winning. There's a couple in the sideboard, so Boswell's going to go reaching for some mana here. This could be the Voice, but it's actually going to be a Fleece main line to evolve the Experiment 1 with the Evolve trigger on the stack. I think we're going to see a removal spell here. There is an ultimate price here in Danny Jessup's hand. Just trying to figure out the best way to use it. Is it the Soldier or is it the Experiment 1?
Yeah, you don't want the Experiment 1 to get 2 counters. Otherwise, he'll be able to regenerate it. So he's just going to kill it before he gets the second counter, and Boswell's just going to be able to attack for 2 here.
Jessup's going to go down to 18, so we're even up at this point. Does Boswell have a 3rd land? He does not, so just going to pass the turn back over to Jessup. Jessup draws a land for the turn. You can see the Hero's Downfall. There are a couple copies of Packrat as well, so Jessup's just trying to stabilize, and then he has a way to win the game with not 1, but 2 copies of Packrat. Boswell's draw was a Temple of Plenty. It is a 3rd land, but it will come into play tapped.
So Boswell's still okay, I think, because he has that Voice of Resurgence. Voice of Resurgence is really huge in this matchup. He can play it pre-combat, kind of forcing Jessup to have a removal spell in response, or he can attack first. Let's see what he wants to do. I think attacking first kind of makes the most sense. But again, Jessup likely going to pull the trigger. He knows that Boswell doesn't have God's Willing main or anything like that. Maybe he's afraid of Smiter, but I think you want to just deal with the Fleece main line right away. So that's exactly what Jessup's going to do.
Here's Downfall's going to take care of that. Jessup will take 2, down to 16. Boswell going to play that Temple of Plenty, I assume, in just a moment. And there that is. So we'll take a look at the top card, see if he does want to keep it. And you mentioned the Voice of Resurgence in his hand. I imagine he wants to deploy that before passing the turn back. Maybe he wants to do it with Selesnya Charm.
Yeah, I really like getting that Voice in play. If he does have one, I believe he does, but I'm not sure the value of playing Selesnya Charm right here, or holding up Selesnya Charm. And it looks like Boswell is going to play that Voice of Resurgence. Or maybe he has another Fleece main line.
Yeah.
I like just both. I like getting
both.
Voice. I like getting Voice out there, to be honest.
Okay.
But it looks like he's going to play a Fleece main. Because, again, Fleece main line later on, if you kind of force him to use a removal spell on a Voice, then you can kind of maybe monstrous Fleece main later on. So I kind of preferred just getting the Voice out there. But looks like Jessup's going to play a land. I think he does have, yeah, he has a removal spell.
Yeah, this turn for Danny is really good. He has Bioblight and Packrat, so he can just play both of those cards. I actually like that turn a lot here from Jessup. Again, I like using your removal, like especially Bioblight, just as a sorcery in this instance. I'm a big fan of that simply because, Selesnya Charm can actually save the creature. So I would probably want to do that. I mean, you're going to cast Bioblight anyway, so I think you might as well just cast. Now, there's also the chance that he just goes Packrat and passes.
Yeah. Oh, no,
and he's
looks
going to
like
blight. Okay, and I like this play. Again, just using it as a sorcery, no tricks allowed, just pass the turn back.
Yeah, and next turn, if he has a 5th land, he can go Packrat, activate Packrat.
Yeah, and you see the 5th land in his hand.
Yep.
His hand right now is Packrat, Swamp, Gray Merchant. So everything is really going according to plan here for Jessup.
Yeah, and Boswell's board would have just been so much better if he has that Voice in play. I mean, Voice is so good in this matchup. Just get it into play. I would have played it I would have put it in play in turn 3.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he's just not able to press any advantage here. He's only going to be able to attack for 2 here.
Yeah, Jessup's at a really healthy 14 right now. Boswell does have a Boon Satyr in his hand. He's a little bit stuck on mana at this point. Also has a Banishing Light. That's kind of interesting if he does want to cast that, or if he wants to continue to play creatures to the board. He's just going to pass the turn back now.
Yeah, I don't quite understand this line from Boswell here. Maybe he's trying to set, yeah, I don't quite understand the line here. I think you have the Banishing Light there. Maybe he's thinking I'll be able to Selesnya Charm something to give it trample to get through the last points of damage. Maybe he thinks Jessup only going to be able to... I mean, if Jessup only activates Packrat once, he only has 2/2/2, so he doesn't know about the other Packrat in his hand. Obviously, it's much worse. But, so Danny's going to attack with one of the Packrats here. Don't think Boswell wants to play the Boon Satyr and just block, but maybe he does. I mean...
There's a chance of that.
He could also make a soldier token. Don't think he wants to do that. Jessup's can activate another Packrat, make it a 3/3, so...
Boswell's in some trouble this game. Just hasn't been able, didn't get off the ground running. I mean, I don't want to say he didn't get off to a good start because he did experiment one Soldier of the Pantheon on turn 2 and then a creature on turn 3. I mean, he definitely got off to a good start, but Jessup was able to keep up pretty well.
I just think I understand the appeal of wanting to evolve your experiment one with the Fleecebane Lion, and Fleecebane Lion's a 3/3, but I don't know. I just feel like you want to get that Voice of Resurgence into play in this matchup. Because even if they have a removal spell, you still get a creature, so you get a little more damage in.
Yeah. Boswell does play Boon Satyr in turn. He's going to go down to 14 to do so. We'll see what kind of attacks he wants to make this turn. Of course, you can send in both creatures here, which makes for a compelling attack, I think. If we attack with both, Jessup could say, all right, I will, block Soldier of the Pantheon since you can't Selesnya Charm it, since it's protection from multicolored. But, he'd throw away the Soldier, and then maybe a Banshee like gets, thrown in the mix, stuff like that. So things do get a little bit interesting here.
And Jessup does have a Grey Merchant in his hand, I believe. So he probably feels pretty comfortable with his life total. Even at 14, I think he's okay with just taking the damage here.
Yeah, here come both creatures. The race is certainly on right now. Looks like Jessup's going to take 6. It looks like he's reaching towards his life path. I think he's considering what happens if he does take this amount of damage. And there's a real reason to consider this, too, because if he takes 6 and goes down to 8, then a Johnny's lethal.
Except for the Grey Merchant.
Yeah, the Grey Merchant. Yeah.
So,
there's also a chance that he just doesn't cast Grey Merchant next turn, depending on what he draws.
Yeah, he might just want to activate Rat. So, yeah, it looks like he took 6 and he went to 8.
The draw's a Mutavault. That's pretty good.
Yeah, good draw there. He can now, if he wants to, he can attack for 6 and then gain 4 life, which I kind of like.
It's hard to pass that turn up.
Yeah, especially with Boswell at 12.
Yeah. There's your attack for 6. Boswell's going to go down to 6. Here's the Grey Merchant, drain and gain for 4. Jessup's going to go up to 12. Boswell goes down to, I think it goes down to 2. Yeah.
All right, so he draws, I think he drew another 1-drop. So I think he has an elf, a Sunblade Elf in his hand, and a Soldier of Pantheon.
The thing that kind of gums things up right now for Boswell is that Mana Confluence.
Yeah.
He can only do so much.
Yeah, he's in a tough spot here. He's basically going to have to play Voice of Resurgence and another creature, I think, and kind of hope that Jessup messes up next turn. Yeah, I kind of like playing Voice of Resurgence Sunblade, because Jessup has 4 creatures, one of them being a Mutavault, that Boswell has to block every one of them, because he's at 2. So he needs to get 2 other creatures into play.
There's a Soldier. He's going to go down to 1, cast the Voice, kick the turn back. Can't attack, of course, because then he just leaves himself dead on board. So
yeah, I like playing the Soldier instead of the Sunblade Elf, because if Jessup does make a mistake and play like a Night Veil Spectre, you gain 2 life.
That'll help.
Yeah, so.
The thing that's tough here, of course, is that every draw that Jessup has is just a Packrat.
Yeah.
That's the big issue. He drew a Swamp to the turn.
He's not drawing any lands for the rest of the game. Yeah. He's just drawing rats.
That's the bigger issue here.
So, what could Boz do here potentially? He needs to, he basically needs to like, Jessup to mess up. He needs to draw like an Ajani, and needs to be able to untap 1 turn and attack with something that's a Selesnya Charm, like a 4-power creature with Selesnya Charm, which he does have a Selesnya Charm in his hand. All right, so Jessup's going to attack with everything here.
I mean, this is just a really safe attack. Basically what's going to happen here is, Boswell's forces are going to just kind of get whittled away, you know? I mean, these are some good blocks for Andrew. And Packrat activation there. Packrats are going to turn to 4/4s.
But then they'll fall down to 2/2s though. So I think this is actually a great turn for Boswell.
He clears up quite a few of those rats.
If he can top deck another Banishing Light.
I believe that tap Packrat should be
I think
off
the tap rat
yeah.
does too, yeah.
That way, that one's dead too.
Yeah. That rat's dead too,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, let's slow things down here.
There's 2 damage on it. And there's
Suddenly,
like 2 rats in play.
suddenly this, yeah.
But the blocks were great.
Yeah, so I don't think Boswell wants to necessarily concede just yet.
The problem here is that he can only do so much. Yeah, and the judge obviously at the table explaining to Danny, you know, your creatures had damage on it, and you know they kind of snowball away.
And if Boswell, if that mana confluence was any other land,
yeah,
Boswell's in pretty good shape actually.
Boswell just gonna pass the turn back. Mutavault's the draw. Basically like drawing a rat, but I think it's actually, you know, I think you're better off actually just activating Packrat instead of playing the Mutavault.
You just want to get a rat into play. I guess Voice of Resurgence would be a pretty good draw for Boswell. I think he's going to be able to survive this turn.
I don't know.
And kill a rat.
I think he survives this turn. I don't think he makes it past the next one.
If he draws a Voice, because he will be able to kill a rat. So basically, the board is going to be the exact same thing it is. For Jessup, it's going to be the exact same situation.
Yeah.
He's going to have a rat in play.
Yep.
And
yeah, this is the problem, though, is because
Boswell
doesn't start the turn with a creature again.
Yeah,
he drew a voice, but it's not going to do
matter.
it.
So Boswell almost was able to pull it out there, or at least stabilize somewhat, but unfortunately, despite an okay start, just wasn't able to get anything going. And I honestly think that Voice of Resurgence play, I think that kind of made the difference. I think if he's able to get that voice in play earlier, it changes the entire landscape of the game. But unfortunately, maybe a slight miss up there, but again, not quite sure.
Back in the booth, Cedric Phillips, Oslobodovich, Star City Games Open Series here in Baltimore. Time to give away our last trivia very, very quickly at SCG Premium hashtag SCG Premium. You guys know the rules by now. We've done this a lot. The question is, escaping me, I had one.
You had one
gone.
question.
It's gone. Okay, I remember. There was a Grand Prix Orlando that Conley Woods won.
Yep.
Beat Patrick Chapin in the finals. Pro Tour champion.
Pro Tour champion.
Which is what you are. You're also a Grand Prix champion.
Yes.
You won Grand Prix Orlando. The question is, what deck did Osip win Grand Prix Orlando with? Circa 04?
I think 04, yeah.
You old man, you?
Old man.
What
10 years ago.
What deck did Osip win Grand Prix Orlando with? God, 10 years ago. Hashtag SCG Premium with your answer. Make sure you're following at SCG Live, and we'll announce the winner at the conclusion of our final round, as we're going to head back to the match here in just a moment. Take a look at the sideboards. The thing that's really tough here for Boz is he lost the game, where the opponent did not have life veins on him, and you can see Jessup's sideboard. He's got 3 of those, along with Underworld Connections, 2 Doomblades, 2 Freakus Cures, an Ultimate Price, an Erebos God of the Dead, a Liliana Vest, and 4 copies of Duress. We know the zombies are coming in. What else do you see for Jessup?
Well, for Jessup, it's kind of the same thing that Boswell always has to contend with. He's got to contend with more Doomblades. He's got to contend with an Ultimate Price, and maybe a couple of copies of Duress, just because Boswell has so many spells in his deck, more than a traditional beatdown deck, and especially after board, he's got more. So Duress can take out an Ajani, a Selesnya Charm, a Banishing Light, a God's Willing. There's a lot of key cards that Boswell has that can be taken by Duress. So I could see maybe a couple of copies of Duress coming in. Definitely the Ultimate Price, definitely the Doomblades.
Other side of things, 2 Archangel of Thune, a Mistcutter Hydra, 4 copies of Skylasher, 1 Advent of the Worm, 2 God's Willing, a Setessan Tactics, 2 Ajani Steadfast, and 2 Hunt the Hunter. What do we like there?
Well, Boswell honestly doesn't change too much with this deck. I mean, basically, you're going to see God's Willing and Advent of the Worm come in. Beyond that, there's really not much else. I think he doesn't play all 3 copies of Ajani. I think he still, even though we saw him still have Ajani against Mono Black, I don't think he keeps in all 3. And I think maybe some of the cheaper creatures like Soldier of the Pantheon or Sunblade Elf probably come out. All the other creatures are pretty robust threats. Possibly Banishing Light, just because, not Banishing Light, Boon Satyr, just because it doesn't seem as effective in this matchup sometimes. But again, I think he just shaves numbers. I don't think he cuts anything completely from his deck. I just think he shaves some of the numbers.
Both players are shuffling up here, taking a look at each other's deck lists, so it looks like they are happy with their configurations at this point.
Yeah, and I think, you know, Boswell still has a good chance. He's going to be on the play in game 2. If he can get this to game 3, anything can happen, obviously. He's going to be on the play here. Obviously, things get a little worse for him because Jessup has more removal now. He's going to have those Lifebane Zombies like you mentioned. But again, Lifebane Zombie is not as devastating against green-white aggro as it would be against like a green-red or green-white mid-range deck, you know. They don't have Polychronoses that you can strip, you know. A lot of his green creatures and white creatures are lower to the curve. So there's a chance he could blank, but if he does hit something, it's not devastating because you're usually going to have enough creatures in play to kind of keep pressing your advantage, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
But don't forget, everybody, after we do finish this match, we'll, of course, announce the winner of our 12-month premium giveaway. We'll have a winner's interview in the sideboard. Either Mono Black Devotion or Green White Aggro will take down this tournament in Baltimore. Then we'll take a break. When we do come back from our break, we'll come back and we'll join our Legacy Open in progress. Round 1 is already underway because we started at 9 a.m. now as opposed to 10. And our Modern Premier IQ is also underway, our very first one.
Modern, Legacy, Standard, all in one day, whatever you want. You're going to get it. You got Standard now, you'll get Legacy coverage later.
Yep.
We're going to do Modern deck techs.
Yep.
So basically the entire gamut of formats for Constructed.
You know, normally when we do one of these Open Series events, Saturday, the room is bustling. You know, we had 680 players yesterday. And Sunday's a little slower. Legacy tournaments just aren't as big as Standard tournaments, but because we have the Modern tournament here now as well, there's as many people here today as there was yesterday.
Yeah, it's no joke. I mean, Legacy's incredibly popular, particularly in this area. And Modern, you know, the PTQ season's Modern. There's a Grand Prix next weekend that's Modern. So people are really trying to get the practice in for that format as well. So there are a lot of people looking around this room. There are a lot of people here today. So if you're in the area, you should definitely come down and have some fun.
Again, Modern Premier IQs are something we'll be doing moving forward on the Open Series. So I know a lot of people are really happy for Modern. I'm going to be looking forward to kind of walking the rows and watching those players do battle. But right now, we're going to see if the Boz can tie things up here against Danny Jessup.
Come on, Boz.
It's unbiased reporting.
Give the people what they want.
See if Boz is going to keep this up again. Taking a long look. It looks like Temple of Plenty is where he's got to start again.
I think he's got the lands and the spells, the ratio he wants. I just don't think his curve is low enough. So I think maybe that's what his concern is. Is my curve low enough? Can I deal with a Thoughtseize? And yep, he's going to keep both of his feet.
Temple, top card, bottom, Jessup. We'll draw a card. It's a Bioblight. There's a swamp. No Thoughtseize again for Danny. So Boswell will draw. You see the Manic Influence draws a forest. Does he have a 2-drop? It's Temple Guard. He does not. I don't know if that's good.
So this is definitely the situation. Boswell was basically thinking, is my curve low enough? Should I maybe mulligan? Now he has to face a turn 2 Packrat with nothing in play.
The other thing, too, is that, you know, once you start drawing the 1-drops in your deck now, because this draw was Experiment 1, you know, they're worse on turn 3 or turn 4, so.
All right, well, a little good news for Boswell. It looks like Jessup doesn't have a third land. He does have a Fistful of Removal, though.
Danny got to come in for 1 here. Now, if you're Boswell, you have to imagine, all right, well, chances are you have a removal spell, but I like making him have it.
Yeah.
And there is a Pharika's Cure. That's a pretty good one to have. I'm not terribly surprised to see that come in. It's very good at killing the early creatures. Bad against some of the other spells in Boswell's deck, but...
Oh, I think on the draw, it's a fine card.
Yeah. Experiment 1. Boswell will take 1 to do so. Follow up. It's a Big Dumb Elephant.
All right, so it's not exactly the aggressive start we were expecting from Boswell's deck, but Jessup missing his 3rd land drop still could be fine here, although he does draw a 3rd land here. So Packrat is online, along with maybe any Hero's Downfalls he might have in his hand. Not sure if he has a Lifebane Zombie or not. It looks like he has, yeah, it looks like we see a Desecration Demon there, a couple of Gray Merchants, along with some removal spells, 1 Ultimate Price. Yeah, it looks like he might have double Demon, double Gray Merchant, Bioblight, and Ultimate Price. None of those removal spells can actually deal with the Lockstone Smiter.
This is now the 7th or 8th time Ultimate Price has been bad on camera. This weekend.
It stinks. It stinks.
Boblight's going to take care of Experiment 1.
Wow, so, you know, Boswell's hand's actually pretty good. I mean, this is the situation that he was hoping for. He was like, all right, my curve isn't really aggressive, but I have a really robust, you know, turn 4 and 5 plan. So we're going to start seeing Advent of Worm show up. He's got a way to stop a Desecration Demon and Banishing Light, so.
As long as he didn't get punished too early, like, you know, Jessup kind of hiccuping on land, everything was going to work out okay. As here comes Danny. I think Boswell's going to cast an Advent of the Worm and try to block here. Probably going to see a removal spell here from Jessup, assuming, yeah, he still got the ultimate price, so yep, that's going to get off the table.
Yeah, and I think, so he's going to take one. Boswell goes down to 17, I believe. And if Boswell can draw a voice here, voice would be the nuts. And it looks like he doesn't. He just draws a land. So he's really not able to press that much of an advantage here. Looks like we're going to see an Ajani come down.
Gonna pump up the Smiter. He's running out of creatures.
Yeah.
You know, if this creature gets taken care of, you can see the Devour Flesh in Jessup's hand. He's not doing great.
Yeah, like voice would have been just unbelievable there. Unfortunately, he's running out of gas. We know he has the Devour Flesh. He drew a 4th land now, so now he's going to be able to start deploying Desecration Demons as well.
Yep. The question now, of course, is does he want to deploy Desecration Demon, or would he rather, you know, just cast Devour Flesh and keep going that way?
Well, if he deploys Desecration Demon and Boswell has a Boon Satyr, he could just die, right? Because Boon Satyr gets attached to the Loxodon Smiter, and then you minus a Johnny. So you could just die to that. That would be 18. So you'd have to chump block with your Desecration Demon. So yeah, I kind of like just using Devour Flesh if you can. But Jessup's concern has to be if Boswell has a Selesnya Charm, then he can make a 2/2 and sack that instead. And that's basically your last removal spell.
And I think that Boswell's done a really nice job of kind of holding that up, because last turn Boswell could have went like land, Vanishing Light your guy, or just play the land pass. I think he's done a really nice job of making it at least seem like, well, I have a way to beat your Devour Flesh. Johnny's going to go down to 4.
So Jessup's, and it looks like he is going to play the Demon here.
That's a really good play from Boswell, I think.
So this is great. He gets to keep trugging along. He's got a Banishing Light for that Desecration Demon. So if he just
so bad,
he did not draw one.
Banishing Light. Do you double strike, or do you just put a counter?
I think you double strike at this point. You want to, maybe you get him to 3, maybe you start, I don't know. If you just hit him, either way, I think Jessup has to cast Devour Flesh if he doesn't draw a land. If he draws a land, maybe he casts Grey Merchant. Yeah, this is a tough spot for Boswell. I think I still kind of like plussing here. I don't hate plussing.
The problem, I think, is getting him to 3 is no different than getting him to like 1, right? Because his deck doesn't have any reach.
Yeah.
And Jessup's not going to deal any damage to himself, because like, I'm assuming that Underworld Connection is out of his deck, and there's no guarantee he has to use that, and Sign in Blood's probably out of his deck, so.
Yeah, I think you just do 6 here. And that's what he's going to do. He's going to attack for 6, dropping Jessup down to 7. So hoping that Jessup makes another mistake, basically.
Yeah. Oh, there's a swamp.
So that's good news for Boswell, amazingly enough, because
I don't
he
know.
could make a mistake here. But now, actually, no. Now it probably means more likely Jessup's going to just activate Packrat, cast
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, that's why the land is, I actually think, bad news. If he was bottlenecked more, I think his decision would be harder. But now it's just like, well, I can just cast Devour Flesh and make a guy, so I can do 2 things in 1 turn.
Yeah, there's no way he can just cast Grey Merchant because he knows he just loses if he does that. So now we're probably going to see Devour Flesh activate Packrat.
Yeah. That's what I believe we'll see again. I think Jessup is going to try to play around Selesnya Charm the best that he can, and I do love how Boswell's trying to sell the fact that he has Selesnya Charm like really, really heavy right now. You know, he's looking at his hand when Jessup attacked, and he's just like, okay, that's fine. And you know, he's doing a really nice job of trying to sell it, but Jessup is going to make his move. And if Jessup's wrong about that, he loses.
Yeah. But I don't. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think he has really another choice here. So Boswell still has a chance. Looks like he drew a Banishing Light.
It's so important for him to draw a creature like right now. This is going to take up to 4, of course. So Johnny doesn't need to have a target. And Boswell's just going to pass the turn back. And now the tide is starting to turn a little bit.
Oh, that might have been a Godswell. Yeah, so.
Yep, that's what it is.
So Boswell doesn't have much going on here. He basically needs to draw like runner, Advent of the Worm,
But
Boone Satyr.
the thing is that Boswell's at 22, so his life total is relatively high. And also, the green-white aggro deck, what makes the deck actually really interesting and different is that it's a deck that plays on its opponent's turn a lot. So, you know, it's not easy for Jessup to just be like, all right, attack, like there's nothing you can do. There's a lot that he can do. You know, Boone Satyr, Advent of the Worm, as you did mention. And if Jessup doesn't really have anything, and we know his hand is like 2 Gray Merchants and no removal right now, he actually has to think a lot about how to attack.
Yeah, because Advent of the Worm means I'm probably dead, right?
Yeah. Or, I mean, at least
Or
close to it.
Close to it, yeah. Because the Ajani will go down to 2 if you attack with both your rats. If you activate a rat, yeah, so I think he still attacks with both his rats here. So he's going to try to kill the Ajani, which the Ajani will die. And now we might see a Gray Merchant, or we might just see another rat. I think we might just see rats getting activated.
Gray Merchant's compelling. Start to gain some life.
Yeah, he could also play a land and just go rat.
That's true too. Close out the game really fast.
Next turn you'd be attacking for 20.
There's a Gray Merchant. He's going to go that route. Because that's a little bit little higher. Going up to 11 might just cut out, like, you know, all the outs for Boswell too. Or it forces such a string of cards from Boswell by getting that little bit of life that he might not be able. Like it may force like Boswell to put something incredible together over the next 2 or 3 turns. And there's no guarantee that Boswell's even going to get 2 or 3 turns because Packrat does not take long.
Yeah.
Jessup will untap those 5 lands here. He's got 2 Packrats. He draws a copy of Hero's Downfall. That Hero's Downfall might be the check mark.
Yeah, I mean, Boswell does have a Goswelling, so, but yeah, Boswell just has a Silesian Charm and a Goswell in his hand, really nothing else going on here.
Jessup going to organize that mana a little bit, deciding if he wants to activate Packrat now when he is attacking. Again, right now the attack here is for 2, 4, 6. It can be more if Jessup would like it to be, and it looks like he does. He is going to go reaching for the mana, going to discard a card. It looks like it's going to be the Gray Merchant potentially. Jessup giving this some thought. It will be the Gray Merchant, so a Packrat will come into play. So let's make it 3, 6, 7, and 8 damage that is dealt, unless Jessup wants to go again. So 8 damage. Boswell's going to go down to 10. Jessup's last card again is Hero's Downfall or the potential to activate Packrat. Boswell will draw a card. It's still 10 plenty, and it's a concession of the game. Danny Jessup is our standard open champion here in Baltimore.
Wow. Boswell